What is going on, everyone? Astrologer Eric Rosen. Welcome to Celestial Conversations from Chaos to Clarity. This is the weekly astrology horoscope where I talk about the bigger transits for the week ahead. I mean, what can I say that hasn't already been said leading into this, right? Unprecedented times we're in. As Bob Dylan put it, the times they are a-changing, but this is like on like a fucking alien quantum level. If you understand the backdrop of how intense this all is and how, out of this world this is, but then trying to find our way on a personal level as like a human, like living through this time, like what? But it's a good thing, but I think we still have to be humble during these times and, just show up in our best vibration. So as always, if you want to get a personal astrology reading, hit me up for that link, or it might be around this video somewhere. And of course, Higher Self Rising, the group coaching program that I've been doing on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Central Time is still available. I did just have a new student sign up to join the crew, so you can jump in on that. It's a monthly subscription, cancel anytime. Check it out for a few weeks, for a month, and get some support. I mean, there's no reason to be stuck right now. We've all got stuff that we're dealing with, but it's not about trying to perfect the system and find all the kinks in the hose and the minutia of stuff with South Node and Virgo. And so it's North Node and Pisces. It's much more of a spiritual approach. And, this week I would say that North Node is coming into more effect. The sun is going to make a quincunx over it to it. So, quincunx is, it's kind of like that astrology where it's like it's hard to get one thing to work and get the other piece to work too. So Sun in Libra can be maybe difficult to try to find the balance alignment in ourselves and finding the peace, our relationships, like diplomatic communication, but then seeing like, well, where's the boundaries at? It's almost like kind of like boundless, especially maybe with the assertion of that Mars it is scorching through Scorpio. And kind of wants to like drill in and get truth and figure out what's like really going on. But I think the alignment and the balance is North Node Pisces, that quincunx. It's like, let the divine speak through us. The expression, the communication, the alignment really comes from more of that humble, spiritual, kind of, empathetic approach to things. And that can be difficult because it is Neptune still at the very beginning of the zodiac in Aries. And it rules that Pisces where that North Node is at. So this is where, we're going to have blind spots probably in our ego. Like we'll continue to have to explore these on a spiritual front and shine some light on it. And so this is a good time for having conversations, talking things out with people, putting the emotions on the table, just being okay with just the rawness of the human part and the shedding that's like going on. And of course it is good too for finding the alignment like with the dream, the vision, but it may not be the one that like we're cooking up in the way that we think that it's exactly going to feel. It could feel a little bit more faded, kind of like being pushed in the next just alignment that we need for our soul's evolution and growth. I think that's the main thing to remember with all the things like going on here. It's not really about the exact details of the creation of things. It's more so about how are we evolving as a soul. And I think that full moon in Aries that we officially have, moved out of, the moon has moved into Taurus to start this week. Of course, I do these from Wednesday really into the following Wednesday each week. But we still will see that like, intense, like in the face, like, are you looking at this thing? Are you taking personal responsibility for at least the next 28-day moon cycle? And so it may not be in the face, but it's kind of like the face off of the thing that we know that we need to deal with and be integrating, and the release and the false parts of ego that aren't going to take us in more of a futuristic direction for where things are evolving. That full moon was making a semi-square over to Uranus retrograde in Gemini. And the really big configuration too that's like coming this week, in addition to that sun making aspects to Pisces, we do have Pluto going direct, and Venus, after it opposes Saturn retrograde in Pisces, that's that Venus that will move to the end of Virgo. It will move into Libra and actually move into a grand trine the same day Pluto goes direct. So a grand air trine with that Venus that moves into Libra. No South Node this year, so we can actually feel what it's like really fully like to have a Libra season with Venus at home. And it's making that grand trine to that Pluto that's direct in Aquarius and that Uranus retrograde in Gemini. So I definitely think that there's a hard cutoff for distractions coming this week. And the distractions is not even seeing it as like, I got to cut these people off or these groups of people. It's more so like the empathetic, like detached sort of release that can be more poetic, more therapeutic for the soul of being like, yeah, I just don't need to put my attention over here. Like we've only got so many fucks to give in terms of our like thoughts and thinking. And if it's like too fragmented and too all over the place and getting just like too up into the mind and swept up in the excitement of like, where is the world going? Are these disclosures coming? What are these people doing? Like, I can literally just like bring up like, what are my neighbors doing? Like, what's going on with? It can bring up family situations. Like, there's a lot hitting home again on the relationship front. But I think the true alignment comes from how are we evolving as an individual, like through how we relate to the world, the greater world at large, how we're relating in our partnerships. And to remember, like, that South Node in Virgo maybe wants to kind of push us out of the present moment because it doesn't maybe like look the best in terms of like the perfect playbook of how we would draw it up, and that we're trying to find the perfect system. I think the system that we're meant to be working on as we're going to come into this 3/4 square of where that new moon was at, that solar eclipse new moon was at the end of Virgo. It is kind of like perfecting the system of the soul, so to speak, more so by like integrate, like what did we learn at the end of eclipse season, what's coming up to sort of be flushed and like dealt with, and is not meant to be like the dead weight that we're dragging forward. It's like, what are the things in life that are lifeless, that are just not satisfying, where it's like we're just checking boxes and it's not really inspiring us to want to go further. Like we want to really be investing our energy into anything in life that feels like forward moving, that's actually with the rhythm of where society's going. So this does bring up, paying attention to the technological advancements of things, the AI advancements of things. I've been seeing a lot more people, putting out some things with Soria, which is like the AI that, you can create videos and stuff. And of course, some of it can seem a little weird and creepy depending on how it comes out, but it's more so about the exploration and the curiosity with things of like what these tools can do. Because at some point, I think the only people that are still going to be doubling down on like the narratives that, AI is like a bad thing, is like clutching the pearls for like a rigid belief system. I think getting curious with it, playing around with it, like is part of the advancement forward, and just accepting that it's not an accident that it came, or the technological pieces, that it's a form of advancing consciousness in terms of just like, how do we like grow with it instead of against it. I'm a big Matrix nerd. I know a lot of people didn't see it, but I think going through them, but getting to the Matrix 4, the one a lot of people didn't fucking see because it came out not too long after COVID. It was like 2021, something like that. But like, there is a spiritual way to live in harmony with like tech and machines and AI. And so check that movie out. But I think on the entrepreneurial creative front this week, people in like those leadership positions, first thing I go to is Saturn. It's retrograde at the end of Pisces. And so, it's almost like letting go of like the clutching of the pearls of like the controlled system beliefs and like subconscious ways of thinking that we need the dream to like show up and be real in order to like feel satisfied, to like satisfy a value system that's actually like fading out, where maybe the value system is like, well, if I do all these things, then my life will get better. If I do all these, activities, like then it will create some form of prosperity. Remember, that's a Venus that's opposing Saturn retrograde in Pisces in the sign of Virgo, which the South Node is there. So it's more about the value system release. And you could say the update is more so when Venus comes in to Libra and makes that grand air trine with that Pluto that goes direct and that Uranus retrograde. And so there's going to be reveals, of like what that looks like. And so it's more so about pay attention to like what it is that like we're committing to, especially leading up to, I'd say, really this whole week of the 15th, because some of these things could be, these false lights of things that a part of us knows better. The spiritual side, the soul is saying like, no, don't go there. That's just like that's a space holder. That's a space filler. It's the things that the mind wants to keep busy and piece together puzzles and actually go into a space where it's like, well, let me let go of this thing because it's not really going to yield me what my soul is dreaming about anyway. Like it doesn't match the essence of the beautiful visions that can come through, or the sensations, the spiritual frequencies that we can tap into to be like, wow, this is fucking great. And it's really weird though, because the identification of it is foggy at best. Like if anything, it could even just be retraining our subconscious mind to move out of it's not going to work out, or it's going to fall, or that we need something to like work out in order to like create some sense of stability, like to train us to be more optimistic, like in the void, the void of like what can come in by like cleaning house. Venus coming to the end of Virgo is like helping clean the house, clean out the broken rhythms of life. It's taking the instruments of life with the broken guitar strings and other forms of broken instruments and being like, am I going to replace this string, or do I just want to pawn this guitar off? It's like, do I even play this instrument? Do I even use this? So I think we have to get a little bit more serious with that Venus-Saturn opposition to see what tools actually are going to like go forward. And it's not about a thinking hypothesis. It's going to be way more about, does my soul connect with this? This is a lot about letting go of control. It's a lot about surrender. It's kind of like reminds me of like a trial period, like a training program, if you will, of like, that could seem not important, but it is, of like getting us subconsciously ready for like bigger news in the world, or bigger spiritual news about, it could even be like a divine mission that's coming that hasn't seeded fully yet, because we haven't seen Saturn Neptune meet in Aries. It's like, what is the role that we're going to have in this like new frontier that's coming into, I'd say especially by end of April next year, but also definitely like solidifying by 2027 in February. But it's like those that like get it, that have been like showing up and being in integrity and the authenticity, go, yeah, there's parts of me that like suck, or I gotta like look at this thing, or I gotta learn to accept this part better, I gotta work on this thing, but I still gotta show up, I gotta create. It's like the manifestation, the making money, the connecting with people. It's like we're spinning a lot of plates, and I think that's what this grand air trine is reminding us. It's like you gotta keep up. Like you got to keep up with like the fast-paced energy of the rapid evolutions that are being asked to do. They are trines in this grand trine, so it could be like a lazy, like, oh, I'm just gonna feel this vibe, man. Fucking far out, bro. Fucking, it's good. And it's like, no, motherfucker. It's like you gotta like take it and put a stamp on it. Like journal that shit. Like make it a part of the sophisticated element on like a spiritual level and a thinking level and a moving forward level, because these are gifts, these transits, about, hey, here's how you move out of like any day-to-day ruts or feelings of stuckness or like not feeling inspired. It's like you go through the change, like you go through the rhythm of the change and you go, oh, okay, that's the update that's being asked for. Well, I don't know how that's going to manifest exactly or seed itself. And, that feels like, it reminds me of like, I used to climb these like smokestacks. Like if you would ever drive by like an industrial facility and you see the like the smoke coming out of the big like chimney stacks, and I would have to sometimes climb, well, especially inside of them, but sometimes a little bit outside. And it's like at some point it was like a platform with handrail, but then you had to like go up further and there was no handrail to hang on to. It's like, whoa, I'm really exposed, I'm really high up here. That's very much what the astrology is like asking us to do, is like, don't worry about the handrail, don't worry about falling. I mean, are there some risk that we got to pay attention to? Absolutely. But the thing is that the grand air trine is saying like, yes, be smart, like don't, you know, and even the Venus Saturn opposition is saying like, don't, you know, take unnecessary like risk that don't even like have a payoff. Like we got to like ground the spiritual risk of things and like the exposure of it into like something that can actually be a consistent rhythm that actually like creates beauty. And that's how I would like look at this, is it's like, it's not so much like our ego's exact identification of like how we're going to put it out there, because in some way that's too like old past like thinking, like trying to structure it and plan it out and put it into the old world that's ending. It's like getting used to now that it's like, well, if I just create and just put beauty and express the beauty of what my soul is feeling, whether it feels like ugly or judge, but then putting the vulnerability out there or putting it out in such a way that like, you know, is inspiring others and lifting others up. I just like being human, just like being a spiritual person that embodies shit, like is role modeling the changes that we're putting in. Like that's the frequency upliftment that like we need to like be in the full authenticity of what's really coming these next couple of years. And so, you know, you hear me talk about that a lot, like how even though these are weekly horoscopes, like I'm referencing the bigger macro picture of what's coming, because I don't want anyone to think that they can go into like that mental trickster energy of Mercury that's also in Scorpio, which, you know, one of its home signs is Virgo, but then also Gemini. And so you got that Uranus in Gemini and then the South Node in Virgo. So it's like, it's not the day-to-day, you know, how's it going to like work stuff. It's like evolving higher minded thinking. It's more like not so much how's it going to work, how is this just going to change the familiarity of my reality. But a lot of that starts with our thinking. And with Mercury and Scorpio, it's like the intensity of going like, well, like, is this like actually something I need to be a detective on, that I actually like need to go like deep into? And I think, you know, it's knowing that it's bad if it's like trying to fix something that's not just even broke as fuck, but it's not even a mess that can be fixed, or a mess that's even like on the table and it's like searching for a mess to fix, because the mind can have a way of fucking doing that. And, you know, it's a great week for community, that grand air trine in these configurations. And so it is coming together with more of the like-minded individuals that want to see change, but also seed change too. So it's like taking it to a place of like let's actually talk and actually create and actually lay the tracks and the foundation for how do we get ourselves and get other people or those that we help or our families like out of this shit that goes like, get out of that like fucking mass propaganda programming shit that's been fucking force fed like prison fucking food since 2019, 2020, and get on with what is the mapping of the creations that can come in. And even if it's not fully able to be like realized yet, that's okay, because it's training the mind to be imaginative, to see that the imagination like rules the roost right now. And that imagination also is of ourselves too, believing in ourselves more. And so that can be hard, because that means not believing in the subconscious like programming that's like went into things, or maybe even the subconscious programs were like, yeah, I know that was put there, but let me just like keep doing it anyway. I will tell you, vulnerably speaking, and I think we all got to pay attention to this. Like, you know, the programming with the South Node in Virgo could be like, you got to keep working, you got to keep producing. Like, you know, that's how things happen. And it's like, there's much more energy right now that's saying like, don't burn out, like nourish. And so I've experienced like, you know, that burnout, and, you know, we got to follow like our intuition better. We all do. We all got to like follow that instinctual energy that could just feel like a flash of an insight, but it's teaching us what our next actions are. And sometimes those actions are more inner reflective and more nurturing and taking care of ourselves better. It is Jupiter that's slowing down in Cancer. It's going to be retrograding soon. And so, you know, that could feel like getting forced to self-care and then like not having the gifts come in. So it's like, where can we use Libra season to balance and like get the gifts of the creations, but also keep in harmony with the natural rhythms and cycles of life, the seasons, the circadian rhythm of the body, like all these different things. I will also share, because this is just what's coming up right now, like just aligning with whatever the divine is to you, God, goddess, creator, spirit, whatever it is, because, you know, my experience is that getting out of like any shadow ego stuff and just like teaming back up with God and the divine, like that takes away the stress, that takes away the need for certainty, it takes away the need for the perfect system. And so we don't need to like play these weird like games with ourselves, like acting like that we're not headed into some like major fucking shifts these next couple of years and playing some old broken piano keys, like just trying to like fit in or just be where everyone else is at. The grand air trine that involves Pluto is also saying like, hey, like it's okay to rise up. It's okay to like be the one in your relationships that like talks at a higher dimensional level, not in a guru way, but in a like, yeah, no, like I'm done with that drama, or I'm done talking about that subject, but not in a pushing it aside type way. It's more like I'm laser focused on this thing that gives my soul meaning. And even if the door's not fully like wide open, or if it could feel like some doors are closing because some of these planets are going to retrograde, you know, back here soon, these outer spiritual planets that I keep mentioning. And it's like, but we got to keep like moving forward. This is more about warrior in the garden energy and just like the refinement, because we're not going to have the systems. We're not going to have like the usual stinky playground like that, you know, the fucking show Charlie Brown has been on with fucking Pigpen and just other things, just like always like there. And like that's even same cast of people. It's like we got to like move into more of like the, what is the soul calling for to get us like ready for like when the scene like really changes. And it's hard to predict exactly what that's going to like look or feel like, because it's a mass shift of consciousness, that one that's coming February 2027, Rise of Sleeping Phoenix. You could it wasn't the best audio quality, but you know, I did put it up on my YouTube talking about that. I did a lecture on that. But I don't think that this is the week to hold ourselves, you know, back. And it hasn't been like with our passions though too. You know, like this is a remembrance that just like the insight can like drop in and we can have the awarenesses, but we gotta like fucking use that Mars and Scorpio energy and like use that energy and pour it into like something that feels like passionate, that's actually like, you know, it can break down the walls that prevent ourselves from dealing with that broken system in life that's not working, that daily routine, that health ritual, that modus operandi way of thinking, that way of always thinking about relationships, or like trying to keep the peace, or could be hesitancy. I'm just thinking about all the planets here and like where things are setting up. And then it's more about, you know, rock out, put it out there, expose it. No one cares. You know, it reminds me like There was that meme that was like floating around with the guy in Jurassic Park. He's like, see this guy over here? He's his name is da da da. See, no one cares. And it's like, this is what I've been predicting for years. Is like there's going to be so much happening, so many distractions. Like people don't actually really care. Like if you're like living out your soul's frequency and you're like putting it out there, no one's actually going to like really come in and, you know, put it down. Like the people that are getting triggered right now is like when we kind of like reach across the aisle and we talk about a group of people or we talk about a person or a relationship, and then they're like, oh, you're talking about me. Like that's how I've seen it showing up. But if it's just coming from a place of inspiration and speaking your truth, like hallelujah, you know, so we don't need to hide who we are. Like, I mean, that's part of the Neptune and Aries transit is like there will be people that are afraid to expose their true spiritual nature, but it's about like donning the cape fully. It's about being the full spiritual avatar matrix, you know, insert into the matrix version of self to help like deprogram people's minds by embodying the codes that can come in from certain transits like this Grand Air Trine and just letting it change you. It's like, what if the South Node of Virgo is saying, fuck the self-development and all the changes, and it's North Node of Pisces and all these other transits, and saying, let the universe shape you. Let God shape you. Let him like mold you into clay, the beautiful expression that you naturally are, the fucking awesome healing that can come from that, and not trying to perfect or the performance or the expression or the communication or the day-to-day life. They could feel like messing around with dried up fucking Play-Doh. So appreciate you all. If you want to book that astrology reading, reach out. If you want to get into higher self-rising group coaching, reach out for that as well. Or depending on where you're watching this, there might be some links around for that too. Appreciate you all and see you next time.